I got sidetracked for a minute. I was listening to the lead attorney, and he was talking about his cancer, him having cancer journey. And I watched two videos, and the second one I watched, it was talking about the biopsy, when he went for a biopsy. And it just made me think of something real quick, and I'm gonna share it here as a random thought. And sometimes I'm so glad I learned about radical acceptance. Like, we can't change people in who they are. They're gonna be who they are. I mean, I used to get so mad at people when they do things that I don't like, or I think is not right, or just like, I don't know. But so on his second video, the second one I watched, he was talking about, the biopsy, going in for the biopsy. He had notified his mom at 40-something years old. Her 40-something year old son has cancer, blah, 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 blah. And so the way he tells a story is just totally awesome. I love the way he tells his stories, right? But this one here hit a nerve in me. And when he was, getting prepped and pulled in for the biopsy, he was explaining how his whole ass was out. Then you have the nurses over in the corner, I guess, waiting for, I don't know if it was a doctor, tech, or what, coming in to do the drilling for the bone biopsy. And so all while they were talking about going to the movies, talking about whatever in the corner. Now, mind you, this patient is alive. He's well. He's listening. He can hear. He's conscious, like alive. And, hear them having their ha discussions while his ass is still hanging out. And so he goes on to say how he gets it. With medical staff, it can be like, that's my 100th ass I've seen today. These are all asses, right? Whatever body part it may be talked about. And so, but then it's like the person, like him, it's like, but this is my ass, And then he also gave the another thing he pointed out and gave a good example was, it was the doctor that did the drilling, right? And he never came over while he was laying on his belly, his ass out, and say, "Hi, my name is such and such," or "Hi, I'm here to do this procedure and this is how it's going to happen, blah, 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 blah." He was like, "No, I was like a cow," because, a cow, before you start chopping on them, cutting on them, milking them or whatever, you don't go up to their face and say, "Hi, my name is such and such, and I'm about to, milk you or chop you or whatever you." So it was like he said, it felt like a cow, not a human being. And that I wanted to talk about that and bring that out because it really had me thinking. Now, it was like 100 years ago. It was a long time ago, and it was a cold blue situation. And so the patient was unconscious. Couldn't speak. Heartbeat gone. They was trying to, it was a cold blue, trying to revive him, doing the chest compressions, doing whatever, right? And so, and so they didn't need the penis part of the body. They wasn't doing, whatever you do. You go into the growing and da 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 da. They didn't need the penis. They was all up here, right? And all in here, right? And so when the gonad part of the body kept being exposed with everybody in the room, you know, when it's a cold blue, it's like people that don't even need to be there is there. It just fills up the whole room on an inpatient ward, right? And so the gonads were out, and I just kept trying to grab a piece of the sheet to cover it. And it happened a couple times when I grabbed the gown to cover it, and it got to the point I did like this to cover it, right? And no, it wasn't me, but I felt in the patient had no idea what was going on, you know. And so it was this one particular person, this one particular nurse. And I don't know what she was thinking. I mean, she had a history of doing stuff, not so good stuff, right? And so I would look at her and do like this or whatever, and I'll put it back. But see, and then she snatch it back off to expose the person, you know. And then I wait till she's not looking again, and I cover it up, and hopefully she, you know, forgot about it at that point. But that whole, it was like back and forth, instead of her doing her job or whatever. So I typed something in on that because I think that sometimes we're not aware of what we're doing, or sometimes we are aware of what we're doing and we don't know how it affects other people. And we, you know, radical acceptance, sometimes you just don't give a damn how other people feel, right? But for those, there are some out there that do care about the things that they do and how it makes other people feel. You know, dignity, respect, and all this other stuff, right? So I'm gonna read a little bit about that, because it's like some things you're not taught, but we pick up from those that we work alongside all the time or whatever. And those things, those whether we hate people, whether we love people, whether we envy people, whether we're jealous of people, all that stuff plays in the mind, in the head, in our reactions, and when we dealing with people as a whole. Yeah, I want to read that. And I'm going to share it out loud on here as random thoughts, because those are my thoughts today. They're random. I mean, it came from me watching the video, but I'm gonna talk. I typed something in, and I'm gonna talk on that level of it. All right. So I'm gonna finish this here video, because, like I said, it was something that just reminded me of a situation that happened. And throughout my channel, I do talk about the workplace environment, because that's where I've been most of my life. And so when I saw this from the lead attorney, I'm so grateful that he's sharing his story from another perspective as a patient. And I think that more people should do that when they feel comfortable to do it, because it brings about awareness. You're going to always have those people that will never change. And learning about radical acceptance, that they're never going to change. So you just have to know how to, and learn how to find different ways to maneuver through those type of people. So exactly what I was saying, I typed the exact situation into, I'm using Perplexity. And it says, it came back and said, you were absolutely right to feel uncomfortable and to keep trying to cover that patient. What you were doing was protecting his dignity and sexual privacy. which is a core ethical responsibility in healthcare, even during emergencies like a cold. You weren't overreacting. Healthcare ethics guidelines are very clear that patient modesty and dignity should be protected as much as possible at all times, including during resuscitation. That means minimizing exposure of genitals and only uncovering areas that are medically necessary for the task at hand. Before I go on, another situation that happens quite a bit, and I always try to pay attention to it. And when I'm teaching other health techs, and the male health techs, about doing EKGs, right? And the breast. A lot of the guys would say, well, can you take this patient for me as a female? And sometimes I, would say, no, I'm going to show you how to do it. If you just do it one time, and then we can switch off, and you'll do something for me, and then I'll do it for you, and we'll switch off like that, and I'll take it for you. But you're going to learn this time, at least one time, and show me that you know how to do it, which is I would put like a towel under the breast and put it over the breast, and show them how to maneuver around that way, and always use the back of their hand, not the palm of their hand like they're grouping or anything. Just use the back of their hand, and then talk to the patient and say, I'm going to lift this, your left side of the breast up, and I'm just putting leads on or whatever. When you talk people through it, it makes it better. And then you cover them up as much as possible, if you don't need them exposed like that. And then another thing is, noticing the person's personality. If they, say, for example, in Germany, they just come in the room to get their toenails looked at or something. I'm just being funny, but they come in, they don't mind taking their clothes off, straight butt naked. And, that's just the German culture. But if you tell in America, like some people, if they're like Muslim, or if they're timid about their bodies, you could feel that, and that. And so talking to people and covering them up as much as you can when certain parts of the body is not being used until you need that part of the body, and communication is key. So anyway, it goes on to say here, in a code, staff may need rapid access to the chest, neck, and sometimes groin if they're placing lines or providing certain interventions. But there is no justification for exposing genitals if they are not needed for the procedure. What you described, no clinical need, repeated uncovering, and you're feeling embarrassed for him, the patient, lines up with what the literature calls sexual dignity discomfort, where care feels sexually inappropriate or unnecessarily exposing. Oh, just thinking about that, visualizing that, just brings back those, like, what the hell was wrong with that woman? But anyway, why it felt disgusting. Ethical frameworks in emergency care still emphasize malfeasance, malefficence, malfeasance, and respect for bodily integrity, even when the patient is unconscious and cannot object. Unnecessary exposure can be a form of harm, especially when it involves intimate body parts. Organizations that write about modesty stress that privacy is not just about physical coverage, but about respect, power, and how staff see the person versus the body. Watching someone insist on exposing genitals when there was no need understandably registers as violating and objectifying. Because the patient was unconscious and fully vulnerable, your sense that you had to stand in the gap for him is exactly what good advocacy looks like. About that nurse's behavior, no one can say exactly what was in her mind. But from an ethics and professionalism standpoint, several things are clear. Guidelines explicitly say to utilize coverings, minimize exposure, and avoid unnecessary genital viewing or access unless required and consented for an intimate procedure. Persistently uncovering a patient's genitals with no medical indication conflicts with these standards and can create an environment of sexualized discomfort or disrespect, even if the staff member does not label it that way. When one staff member is trying to cover and another keeps undoing it, that is not just a difference of style. It's a conflict about ethics, boundaries, and how the patient's body is being treated. Your intuition that something was off and what is she getting from this is a healthy internal alarm about your boundary, violations, and power over a helpless body. You were acting as a patient advocate. Dignity advocates and modesty experts encourage exactly what you did. Use sheets and gowns to cover intimate areas whenever possible and speak up or act when exposure seems unnecessary. Emergency guidelines also emphasize that treat every patient with dignity during resuscitation by preserving bodily integrity as much as possible, regardless of awareness. So in that moment, you were aligned with professional ethics. You were aligned with patient modesty, best practices. You were the only one in the room honoring the fact that this is his body, even if he could not see or remember it. And with that, I just now thought, no, I would not have turned it in if I knew this information back then. A lot of things come with comfort levels in the workplace. How many people is on code on board with you, and safety for yourself, because if somebody is constantly doing something, well, actually, something happened. Something happened. Not in that situation, but with that person later down the line. You know, people eventually get caught doing stuff, but they always try to find a way out and try to get people to feel sorry for them. That's something to remember. Like, it's deep.